Shalom, everyone. It's time for the Israel update, our last one prior to Pesach. Chag Sameach, Hanok.
Chag Sameach, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I tell you what, you look like you're just ready to jump on a Harley or get run over by one of the two.
Well, you know, it's kind of my hair is kind of it's kind of unnerving to look at it. So I'm sparing y'all, you know, the having to do that.
Okay, we'll take your word for it. We will. Okay, so I know that you're so busy there. Actually, you probably are because you guys are getting ready. You'll have Passover just a little bit ahead of us, so you guys are getting ready, getting the leaven out. And
Yeah.
are you able to talk to anybody really on the streets, or is it pretty well shut down, or what's going on?
Okay, there are people that are walking around. Our government has said you really need to wear a mask. Now, yesterday, I had a backlog of recyclable bottles that had to go out. Now, the garbage I can throw out in the sort of ground level of my building. So I put on another bandana around my face, put on plastic gloves, and I went out. There are very few people out, and everyone's really avoiding being anywhere near each other. When I say very few people out, I saw probably 7 people in going there and some of them were in cars. So, you know, and people in cars I saw had masks as well. So we've taken it very seriously here, although our government has, in my opinion, mismanaged it. Our Minister of Health did not follow his own guidelines. He is sick with the coronavirus.
Oh.
He held back Netanyahu from imposing a closure on some of the Haredi cities, or predominantly Haredi cities, where there's been a tremendous outbreak. And Netanyahu himself held back from getting the IDF involved right away because he didn't want to give political kudos to Naftali Bennett, our Minister of Defense.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing the same thing over on this side, in that there are those that are trying to take advantage of the political nature of things.
Right.
And I really have no words for people like that. There are none. So, yeah, you did that very well.
Not to worry about that. Yeah.
That is what it is. So actually in Modi'in Elite, which is a town above you, ultra-Orthodox, correct? You're seeing
Totally.
quite a bit of, you're seeing a doubling of the cases.
Yeah, it's their Bnei Brak, the Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox neighborhoods in Jerusalem. They have been the last group of our population to get with the program. Still don't quite seem to get with the concept of social distancing, in the sense of still, trying to, the ultra-Orthodox communities, the Haredi communities in Brooklyn, Flatbush, Borough Park. I keep seeing images, in the New York newspapers of, people at weddings, literally one on top of the other. So it's playing out in a very vicious manner. The COVID-19 situation seems to be bringing out all the wackadoodles on Facebook and social media, the kind of theory of the week, rather the theory of the minute. And, people are denying it. People are saying, there really isn't a virus. You keep having these, see questions pop up saying, do you actually know anyone who has the virus?
Yeah.
So people
in the end, Hanok, there is a conspiracy. It's called a conspiracy to keep the restoration from happening. But
that's exactly it. Now, if anyone wherever this came from, however it happened, forget that, because that's no longer important.
Yeah.
What's important is we're approaching Pesach, And just as the original Pesach, what are we told to do? Stay in our homes.
You know,
Now, is that the biggest coincidence of all time? I mean, people love to, I see this in the social media. They love to refer to themselves as set apart, and they love to distinguish themselves, in observing the feasts of the Lord as opposed to made up holidays, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's so busy patting themselves on the back, they're going to hurt their rotator cuff.
mm-hmm.
But having said that, we are at a very special time in history. I'm not saying it's an easy time. It's definitely not easy. These are the times that really you reach into yourself for faith that you didn't know you had.
The whole thing, I read that the other day, that in Israel, it's like somebody in the Knesset actually opened the Torah and said, wow, what an amazing idea this would be. Let's command everyone to stay in their homes for Passover. That probably has not happened in quite a few years, maybe in
probably since the original Exodus, because people want to be with their family members for holiday. I totally understand that. I totally get that. I would love to have guests. I would love to, but this year, we're told whoever is already in your house, mm-hmm. those are your guests for Pesach.
And isn't it interesting, Hanok, that we're getting, the craziness of the world these days is, I saw a news report last night, and they were teaching you how to clean your house. Now, I remember my mother teaching me how to do that, or telling me how to do that, or just telling me to do that. And I had to kind of figure some things out on my own. But there was a whole news report last night of, how to clean your counters with this disinfectant and this much bleach. And I'm thinking, I'd rather use vinegar. But here we are in these days prior to Passover, and the whole world is being told, stay inside your house, clean your house, and by the way, wash your hands. I think there's a verse is it in Psalm 24 about who may ascend into the hill of Hashem, he who has clean hands and a pure heart.
Yeah.
And that's part of the Passover Seder.
Oh, that's just another coincidence, Mike. Will you just stop that already?
It's probably another conspiracy, Hanok.
It is.
It's probably too crazy.
So, it's amazing.
Yeah. So to not see the possibility that Hashem is doing, I love that a very close a friend of both of ours, Moshe Kempinski, in speaking of the verses of Jeremiah chapter 23 of what is referred to as the greater Exodus. There will be a time that you will no longer talk about the first one, but you will talk about this one that's coming. And right. I love what Moshe said about that it was not that it was going to be, and he's not discounting this, but it's not just that it's going to be greater in the grandeur and all of those things happening, right. But it's going to be a time in which Hashem is going to say, I'm here. And it's going to
everyone's going to recognize that.
Yeah, he's going to step out from kind of an obscurity into the present to where no one can deny the fact that he is working in the affairs of men. That's an amazing concept.
Without a doubt.
And that brings me to another point. I heard that you had an earthquake yesterday down around Eilat.
It's 4 point something, yeah. South of Eilat. Probably in the area where the children of Israel entered Yam Suf, the Reed Sea.
Okay, that's just
coincidence. Go on and chase yourself. Forget it. Again, and I want to caution anyone who's listening. If the redemption of and the restoration of all of Israel doesn't come about in the next week, it doesn't mean that we're off track. It doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's our nature of wanting everything good to happen now. I want to open my presents now.
Mhm.
I want my dessert now.
Well, I see it like this, Hanok, is that if you've ever woken up, if you've ever had to get up early in the morning and you set an alarm clock, that alarm clock goes off and you have one of two options that you can actually have three options. You can either turn it off and get up, you can turn it off, go back to sleep, or you can hit the snooze button. This
Yeah,
is a great time
it's a great analogy.
to decide I'm not going back to sleep. I'm not going back to the way that it was. That no matter if Elijah shows up you got a lot of Facebook messages, man. A lot of people like you. There's we're No matter what happens at this Passover, if Elijah shows up, doesn't show up, okay, that's fine. We need to decide to move into this next level of the process of restoration.
Exactly.
To be that
Exactly. We have to be prepared in our hearts to welcome Elijah. We in our hearts have to say, not just, gee, I wish we could go back to the good old days when we could go to the mall where I envy y'all in America who have land.
yeah.
You go out there, you sit out there, or people, they're able to go out for a walk. It's what I was thinking of doing is building a zip line for my mirpeset, my terrace, or at least a rope where I could practice, scrambling up and down, kind of like Batman or something. No, oh, sorry, we don't want to say bats anymore. Forget that.
Yeah, yeah,
Forget that.
yeah. It's not kosher. This is
You'll notice,
Passover. Okay, so
absolutely, you'll notice no pandemic was ever caused by someone eating gefilte fish. Never. No. To some of y'all, Michael Clayton, it's like eating cat food.
it is cat food. Come on, look, gefilte fish. If you look at it, it looks like cat food. It smells like cat food, and it tastes like cat food.
Do you
So
know
if
what?
it has those three properties, guess what it
Okay.
must be?
I think we should do a special episode one day just discussing nuances of food and food culture. But that's, not for today.
Yeah.
Let's deal with the redemption first, and we can get to the nuances of food. You
There's a
know,
verse. There's something you just mentioned before we got off track. There's a verse, I can't find it right off the top of my head here, that says, "Do not look back and say the good old days." It actually is a commandment that we should not look back and say, okay, well, let's get back to the good old days, because let's face it, Hanok, the good old days, when you stop and think about it, some of those weren't so good, and many of us are very blessed to have lived
no,
through them. So we need to focus on moving
have
forward. That's what the
survived.
verse is
Yes.
saying. Focus on moving forward and never look back. That's what the Hebrews did when they left Egypt. They kept
Yeah.
looking back. Are we going to be a people that repeat history or make history? One of the two.
Well, I'm all for the making history kind of folk. That's what we're about. The restoration of all of Israel, the most predominant theme of all of the prophets, is about action. It's not about sitting, when we speak of a time when the house of Judah will walk with the house of Israel, we're not, notice the words are not when Hashem takes the house of Judah and Hashem takes the house of Israel and makes them walk together. We've got to do the walking, and then we become one in his hand.
There you go.
So it's up to us. We've got to make it happen.
Yes, we do. And may he give us direction on how to do that. So yes, your internet is becoming a little unstable, but maybe it's the internet, or maybe it's you, or maybe it's both of us. I don't know. So any parting words there? Are you still there with me? It looks like we lost him. So with that, folks, Chag Sameach, may you have a blessed festival season. There you are. Hey, you're back. And you're also muted. Hang on just a second. Okay, you're there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Zoom is going through privacy issues right now and all kinds of stuff, so it's hard to keep up with.
Well, you know, every man, woman, child, and beast in Modi'in is online right now.
Yeah,
So.
probably so. Give us some parting words from Modi'in.
Okay. What's interesting is right before Pesach, throughout Israel, Israeli flags are hung up throughout all of our cities. Pendants all over because of the time of Pesach, Yom HaZikaron, our Memorial Day, Yom HaAtzmaut, our Independence Day, and Shavuot. For those 7 weeks, you see Israeli flags. They've just come up now. To me, that's my inspiration. I'll take a picture of it and I'll send it to you guys.
Hey, sounds good. All right,
It's the season.
Good.
The season of our redemption. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Take
Take
care.
care, Mike. Bye-bye.
Bye.